Okay, everyone, welcome back to the shiur. Hold on, let's start this.
Honestly, take a second take. You do it with the full fervor.
Welcome back, everybody, to the shiur. We have some announcements before we begin. This shiur should be a refuah shalema for Uriel ben Mechona Tzipora, our dear friend Hamechona Tzipora, who is called Tzipora. He should have only a complete refuah shalema speedily in our days. Secondly, as everyone sees over here, the Nach Daily Sefer has come out in stores. It's in stores in Eretz Yisrael, and it's going to be by Shavuos. It's going to be in the States before Shavuos, a little bit after Shavuos, not exactly sure. And if you take all the Navi, smash it down into one thing, you get this book. Navi Made Easy, for those of you who want to learn Navi. Whoop, you okay over there? Are you okay? Okay. So those of you who wanted to learn Navi, never got around to it, or stumbling through it, we have an easy way to do it. So now let's just catch us up to where we are as we start every shiur. Heichan ani ba'olam, a question we must ask ourselves every day. Where are we in this world? Where am I? We have more sheets if you need. If there's not enough over there, there's more over here. And what we've been learning about, welcome Sila. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Okay. So what we've been learning about here, we're in Orot, the Zeronim section. We're going through this piece, letter Vav, L'Melchemes Hadeos Ve'emunos, the war of worldviews. And what we're learning about is how Rav Kook wanted us to adopt a new educational approach, a new approach to Chinuch. And that approach is a very, very broad one. This approach to Chinuch, this worldview that Rav Kook wanted us to adapt, he wanted us to be magal the kodesh b'toch hachol. He wanted us to reveal the divine spark that is hidden not only in Judaism, but in all worldviews. That so many people feel that there's no place for me in Yiddishkeit. They feel they're ashamed of the thoughts that they're having. They think it's kfivra, or it's out of the camp. It's not within the confines of Yiddishkeit. And Rav Kook, he brings everything back into the fold. So what he was advocating for, especially in this piece, is a worldview, a chinuch that is more encompassing, that is more globalizing, a chinuch, an educational philosophy, a paradigm shift in the way we view Judaism, the way we view our Yiddishkeit, that it should be very broad. As I keep saying, just Rav Kook's lens was as wide as it could possibly be. There's the narrow nifty-50 lens, and then there's wider, and wider. Right? So Rav Kook, we're going to see, he says amongst the widest things that we're going to be learning about. And last week, what we were talking about, how true unity comes from absolute principles, the divine principle which is able to incorporate many, many things, because as we all know, Judaism 101, emunah 101, is there's nothing outside Hashem. So how far does that go? Another disclaimer, that wasn't a disclaimer, but a disclaimer, this is going to be, what we're going to see today, is very controversial, or maybe somewhat controversial, from Rav Kook says. Mostly what he writes is not controversial, but we're going to see something here that could be considered a little bit more controversial, and but it's amazing. And when I learned it, it was just, the first time I saw this, I was like, what? He can't be saying that, but he is saying what I thought he was saying, and he says it over in many places. And it's just, for me, it's just refreshing, and we'll get to why that is, because as I get older, I find myself wanting to reintegrate things that I grew up with, and in my family, it was all about world religions and theology, and there was a very big emphasis in how I grew up talking about these things, and especially what my parents do, going to all communities in Africa and dealing with everything. So Rav Kook is going to just open this up in a way that I've never seen it written anywhere, but we'll try to make sense out of it and put it back into the fold a little bit, but we'll see where this goes. Okay, so we're at this page over here. Yodat, you know the page with the long paragraph. There's this page with the long paragraph, and right at the end there's 3 sentences. Starts with Yodat. You see that? You guys got it? 152 on the top. Okay. Do you have? Take right. Okay. So, Yodat he, again, so we were talking about in broad spiritual principles that are all-encompassing, not being narrow, not being closed-minded, being, as they say in Israel, patuach. More zorem. Potach zorem, right? Being more open. Yodati ki b'chol yesh nitzotz or. We know that in everything there is a spark of light, right? All the Sifrei Kabbalah talk about this, all the Sifrei Hasidus, right? That it talks about that there's light in everything, right? The Tzimtzum's not exactly our topic right now, but it's all connected. Hanitzotz Elohi hapnimi zorech b'chol achas mehamunas shonos. A spark of divine understanding sparks, it's there, fluctuates in all the different me'emunot shonots, all the different faiths that are found in the world. B'tor sidrei chinuch shonim l'tarbus anoshi. In the way that there are many paths of education and many paths of habituating someone into something for all of mankind, right? There's America, there's China, there's all different ways of chinuch, all different worldviews. L'tikun haruach v'achomer, and these ways of habituating a person, this type of chinuch of humanity, right, is to fix both the spirit within a person and the physical world around the person. Ha'asha v'ha'olam, the moment and the world. Ha'yachid v'hatzibur, the individual and the group. Ela shehem ba'adraga shonos, but rather the nitzotz of kedusha that is found in all the world faiths and all the world religions. There's a spark of truth, there's a spark of emes, there's a spark of God found in all the world religions. Now, he's going to even say this further, right? Hey, welcome back. Good to see you, right? So whether we're talking about Christianity, he's saying that there's a spark of holiness in Christianity. Whether we're talking about Islam, there's a spark of holiness, a nitzotz of Hashem in Islam. Whether we're talking about any other religion, there is a spark of kedusha tucked away and hidden inside that religion, which is amazing, first of all. He's going to go on say even further than this, right? But he's saying even the world religions, right? This is very different than what we're used to hearing. We're used to hearing, this is treif, and this is bad, and this one's a rotzeach, and this one's a murderer, and how could you even think about that, treif azachin? But Rav Kook is saying, no, actually there's a spark of holiness found in every world religion, and that spark of holiness is actually good for them. And it's good for the world. And we're going to see, we bring the Rambam later to try to flesh this out. Right, but he's already showing the widest angle. Kishem shakoach hatzomeach. Next page. Kishem shakoach hatzomeach echad hu mitgala be'erez asher bilavanon ube'ezov asher bikir. And just like there is a koach hatzomeach, the ability to grow, like in a plant, it has the growth, the ability to grow and sprout. In erez tree, a cedar tree in Lebanon, there also is that same koach hatzomeach, that ability to grow and develop be'ezov asher b'kir, in a hyssop found in the wall. Ella sheberishon hu ba b'tzura ashira u'meruba u'b'sheni b'tzura aniya u'ma'ata. But what's the difference between the koach hatzomeach, the ability to grow and develop in the cedar tree, and the one in the hyssop tree? The first one, it has it more rich. It has more of power of growth in it than the small little hyssop coming out of the wall. Thinking of the weed, like in our garden, I'm always doing the weeds, like plucking the weeds out and getting involved. But that weed has a koach hatzomeach. That weed has the ability to grow and develop in it. Kain or nitzotz Elohi ba bigvoa shebedatot. So too, the spark of divinity comes from the highest of religions, emunah and faith, but often ashir, in a very rich way, v'derech romeima, in a very exalted highway, that's us, that's Yiddishkeit, we're the cedar tree, u'beyeruda shebehen ba'ofen mitush ba'oni v'shiflas. But in the lowest of religions, I don't know, maybe Hinduism, I don't know what's the lowest of the religions, right? Just worshiping trees, right? But in the lowest of religions, that spark of kedusha is there, but in a very, very, very weak and degraded form. That's like, everyone's like, should be going out of their kalim right now. That in Christianity and in Islam and all the world religions, they have a certain truth to it. They have a certain spark of kedusha inside of it, right? Of course, Yiddishkeit, we have supreme, we have the ultimate, we're the cedar tree, we have the ultimate truth, right? But other religions also have a spark of divinity, a spark of truth to them, right? And this is amazing because like when I first saw this, like as I was saying before, like my parents always were studying world religions and they still do, and theology was a huge conversation in my house growing up. And then you become more from and you're like, oh, this is treif and that is treif and this is treif, and as I get older, like I want to reintegrate things of my past into myself now, So you spend your time running because you think, well, that's not Judaism, that's outside the fold, right? Thinking that there may be a spark of truth to other religions, right? And then Rav Kook, in the most widest way, says, yeah, there are sparks of truth in other religions. It doesn't all have to be treif. It's not, thinking those thoughts are not thoughts of heresy, of kfira, right? Now, so I find it healing. For me personally, it's very healing to see that, And like one of my, I guess I'll be vulnerable, like one of my, actually you probably know this, my wife definitely knows this, like my second mother growing up was Reverend Terry Troya, and she was a Reformed Protestant minister, and she was like, the person in my house all the time that was always taking care of us and with my mom, and my parents would go away, we'd stay by her house. She actually koshered her entire kitchen. I don't know how halachically it was good, ask a rabbi, but, but growing up, and she was very nice. So then you're like, wait a minute, you're sitting with that tension. Is this right? Is this not right? What's going on? If you know anything about Christianity, Reformed Protestant is very, very liberal, so that's actually good, better for the Jews, But at the same time, so it's like Rav Kook is bringing all this into the fold and saying, yeah, there are righteous umas ha'olam. There are, if you want to join, you can join. Okay, he scared him away, right? There are truths to other religions. It doesn't mean that it's all bad. Now you have to take this in context because Rav Kook also says in other places, he speaks about the damage that these religions have done to the world. And he goes into whether Christianity is avodah zarah, it's not avodah zarah, whether it's considered shittuf, do they think Jesus is a God or not, whatever it is. It's a whole another topic. So Rav Kook does speak bad about them in other places, but over here is one place where he speaks favorably about them. Putting that out there. Okay. Harisha, it's awesome, right? Harisha v'habarut hanoshit ifsa es drachim shel netiyas adam haklalit. Right? Evilness and foolishness of mankind, they've blinded the ways and the netiyas ha'adam haklalit, the desire within a person, humanity in general, hasho'efet el hatov, who longs for goodness, el emes, el truth, el osha ruchni be'amke muvano, and the spiritual truth that every person seeks out within their own heart and their own understanding, right? So there's a nitzotzos of or in these world religions, right? But because of our bad midos and our evil ways, we've blinded to see the nitzotzos of goodness within the world religions, within all the other faiths, within all the other opinions, right? So a person who searches out good and tov, you don't find it in Christianity. You don't find it in that way because we've lost our way in a certain way. But in the MS, there is a point of kedusha, there is a nitzotz Eloki found in all these things. Aval gam b'ma'amkei haklipas hayoser gasus ganos v'chavoy hu oso nitzotz. But you should know in the depths of the klipas, in the depths of the negative side of the impurities, in the thickness of it, tucked away and hidden away, is a spark of goodness, or Hashem, the light of God, or Ha'orim, the light of lights. She'i efshar lanu levato ve'eno yachol itlabish ba'osios shel shum mifta gam lo shel shum rayon. That it's impossible for us to articulate this in words because it's so in the letters, the holy letters of Hashem's name, the holy letters of Hashem's Torah are so tucked away within those words, within those lashonos, that it becomes impossible and able to articulate it and even find it. So what he just did, he's now saying you can't do. Right? And the world continues to develop. I love that word. It goes and it gets uplifted, right? That's standard Rav Kook, that the world is constantly in a state of process, a constantly state of development, right? Like the stages of development in our own life. Like a human being is also in constant state of development, right? Erickson's stages of development, we know about Erickson, right? And in that way, the same way all of humanity and all of world history is one big Eloi. It's always getting closer, it's always getting closer, it's always getting closer. So the world is going and constantly developing in this continual process of development. Hadeya hayeshara holeches umerchaves as darka. And proper ways of thinking, it goes, it spreads, because the world, in Rav Kook's world, the world is always moving towards Eloi. It's always getting better. Right? So because of that, mankind's, humanity's way of thinking is also always improving. Hahigayon habriya, the healthy feelings, v'hanisyonot harabim, and the many great difficulties that we have, the many tests that all of us have and humanity face as a whole, mifanim es haderech mimichshalot. It removes those feelings that we have and those tests that we have, clear the path from all its stumbling blocks. So I always think like that imagery of just like you're doing gardening and you're like taking out the rocks and you're taking out the weeds, and that's hard work, right? So the difficulties itself become the clearing path in order for us as individuals and as humanity in order to come to a true understanding of God. Hatiyot holchot umitmaot, the errors, they begin to dwindle and get less and less. V'sabuche hadimyon hagas holchim unmitparkim, and the false illusions of the imaginations go and they start to dissipate. Nishar bechubo etzem takfo nitzotz haruach hapanimi, so it's left within our hearts. Nishar bechubo, it's left tucked away, be'etzem takfo, in its actual potent strength, nitzotz haruach hapanimi, a spark of internal spirit, hadochef es hanitzotz hatov legalos, that is always pushing the goodness to come out. The nitzotz hatov shehem zikei or, and the spark of goodness, which is the flashes of light, mi zohar, from the splendor of or Eloki emes, from the God of truth. Matchilim lehitraot mitoch chagvei artzos mafela. It begins to blossom and sprout and be seen bitoch chagvei artzos, in the arena, on the world arena of darkness, right? I know that's a whole mouthful, right? Like the Ramchal explains in the beginning of Derech Hashem, and the Ramchal explains in Das Tfunas, right? That the propensity for good, even though Adam and Chava sinned and Tov and Ra got all mixed up, the propensity towards good always remains. That nitzotz hatov is dachvo, that image of just like pushing its way out, right? The propensity for good in humanity and in individuals is always working its magic to develop, to be ole and mitvasem, right? Everything that's going on in the world nowadays, right? It's just the propensity of Tov coming out and clarifying itself, what's good and what's bad, right? And the world is always developing and getting better. And therefore, these world religions were Hashem's way of moving the world forward, right? Just to put it together, right? And of course, we have the ultimate truth. Of course, Yiddishkeit have the ultimate truth, right? And there's been damage from other world religions. But nevertheless, in Rav Kook's world, nothing happens without Hashem wanting it to happen, right? So it's a question of emunah. Do we believe everything happens from Hashem, or only the things that fit within our personal and collective narrative happen from Hashem, right? In Rav Kook's world, it was everything. It was everything, no exceptions, full stop, right? So the propensity, Hashem used these world faiths in order to clear the path of difficulties. And Ra gets weakened as time goes on, and the propensity towards good keeps pushing its way out. And as we're planting, we're removing all the michshalim, all the rocks and all the bad soil that you can't plant in. And there's fresh, fertile land for growing, right? And the whole world is developing in this amazing way. Okay. Therefore, it's beginning to spark avkei ha'emes, the flame of truth, v'ha'or mufuzarim bein kol ha'emunos shonos, and the light that is scattered through all the world religions and belief systems. Shekulam noves mimayim chai hayachid, because all world religions and all foreign belief systems ultimately flow out from the spring, the fresh spring of water of the chai hayachid, of the one, Hashem, She'ikaro shorsho hu tamid or Yisrael. And that ultimately, chai ha'yachid, is the or of Yisrael. Right? Hashem is using the light of Yisrael to come out. And all faiths and everything could all be tied back to the nitzotz, hatov, found in Yisrael. Everything is connected to God because we are the light of Hashem in this world. So everything ultimately comes back to Yisrael. Ha'emunah ha'tahora ha'omedes al basis ha'yachidi she'mamida la'ad v'shela'ad lo yimad. Right? And true faith is standing on its basis alone through the group that stands alone, that is here for now and forever. That's Am Yisrael. Right? So you see, I love this. This is just like, it's amazing, because how big, like who thinks like this? Who thinks about all humanity and world religions, how it's all really tied together, Yiddishkeit, and this is Hashem's way of being Oled Mitvasem and developing the world, and even acknowledging that there could be truth in other religions is like so far out of what we're used to hearing, Okay, so now let's go to the sheet over here. So the truth is, this is the Rambam. The Rambam writes this. Okay, you have the sheet over here, photocopied sheet. Okay, so we have, if you turn it sideways, have it this way. Okay, turn it this way. Listen what the Rambam writes. Okay, this is the Rambam in Hilchos Mishnah Torah, Hilchos Melachim, Perek Yud Aleph, the 11th Perek. Okay? What are you saying? He says, Af Yeshu HaNotzri, Shedima Shia Mashiach. Even Jesus, who thought he was Mashiach, he compared himself to Mashiach, V'nerag b'Beis Din, and he was killed through Beis Din, right? He says clearly the Jews killed him. Kfar nitnave bo Daniel. Daniel prophesied about Yeshka. Sheneimar ubnei partzi amcha yinasu lahamid chazon v'nichshalu. That the prutzim, the people who break the boundaries of our nation, they'll lift themselves up and they'll stand a vision and everyone will stumble in it. V'chi yesh michshal gadol mizeh. Is there no stumbling block better than Yeshka? Shekol hanevim dibru shemashiach go yisrael Mashiach. That all the prophets came along and said Mashiach is going to save them. Umekabit nidachehem umechazik misvosam, and bring the scattered Jews from all four corners of the world and strengthen them in mitzvahs. V'zeh gorem, and Christianity and Yeshka zeh gorem la'abed Yisrael b'cherev. Right, we know about the Inquisition and all the how many Jews died by the swords of the Christian. Could be ulafazer sheirusum lishmelim, and it scattered the Jews throughout the world. It didn't bring people back together, right? Because ulahachlif Torah, and he flipped out the Torah. He said it's irrelevant. Lahatos rova olam lavod elhei mivladei Hashem, and to fool the world into this great mistake in order to serve something other than God, right? So he's saying that. Right, this is part of, again, I'm not an expert in Christian theology, I'm not claiming to be, but Yeshka came along and said, okay, I'm the Mashiach, right? So I say, okay, show me the signs of Mashiach, right? It says one day, all the Jews are going to come back to Eretz Yisrael, and the wolf is going to lie with the lamb. Oh, there's going to be a second coming, that's going to happen the second time around, right? Means if he was really Mashiach, all the words of the Nevi'im should come true. Right, and you could learn about them in the Nach Daily Sefer, right? And they didn't come true yet, right? So listen to what he says. Aval machshavos borei olam ein kol ba'adam lasigam. But Hashem's ways, the thoughts of God, we cannot understand. Kilo darkenu drachav, because our ways not Hashem's ways. V'lo machshavosainu machshavosav. Our thoughts are not Hashem's thoughts. V'kol hadvar ha'elu shel Yeshu ha'notzri, and everything having to do with Yeshka and Christianity, v'shel zeh Yishmaelim, and also Muhammad, right? And from the Yishmaelim she'amad achrav, who came after Yeshka, einan ela liyasher derech lemelech HaMashiach. This is the only way to straighten the path for Mashiach to come. Like Rav Kook is saying, take out the weeds, the michshalim, to clear the path for Mashiach. Uletaken es ha'olam kulo, and to spread monotheism into the world, to fix the world, la'avod es Hashem b'yachad, that we should all be serving Hashem together. Shenemar ki azeh pochas el amim, right, pasuk in Svanya, because then the nations will flip, safa brura, they'll have a clear, clarified speech, likro kulam b'shem Hashem, in order to call out the name of God, ula'avdo shchem echad, and to serve all in one name. Parenthetically, The Radak on this pasuk says, the Rashi on this pasuk says, what does it mean, Safa Brura? They'll speak clear language. It means they'll speak Perish, Lashon HaKodesh. They'll speak Hebrew, right? So we know Hebrew's been revived, that language. This is amazing. Okay, separate conversation, but I could not say that, right? So the Rambam is saying, why did Christianity and come to the world and Islam come to the world, right? All to pave the way for Mashiach, like Rav Kook is saying, right? That there's a spark of truth found in these religions, that lo machshosai malshechem, our ways is not like Hashem's ways, and all this is to just pave the way for Geula, right? Because the world is constantly working its way. Isn't that amazing?
It's connected a lack of religion?
What do you mean?
Is that what we're saying? That the world religions, there's a spark of holiness there, so if there's a void of religion, then there's a lack of holiness, so that's how this is bringing.
Well, he's saying that these religions, beyond their practice, right, represent certain spiritual truths of the oneness of God. I mean, it's a shiloh what Christianity is considered, actually, whether it is considered Vodazar, whether it's not, whether it's considered Shituf. Not for our topic right now. It would make it interesting. I'm sure Mike could probably give it an amazing shiur on it, you know. But what he's saying is that ultimately they represent one God. And certainly that's better, like the hyssop. Like a hyssop, I think, is like, like Pashut, old-fashioned Avodah, like having many gods and voodoo dolls and all those things, right? And that's like the weakest thing. And somehow there's a nitzotz of holiness in there. Very, very weak and demuned, right? On the other hand, you have things that are closer to the truth. Right, Islam believes that there's one God. Right, if you convert to, right, if you're not over the Vazara, if anyone here became Muslim, right, you wouldn't be over that. Now, Christianity is the Shiloh, but I think we're going with Rav Kook's view on this, that you wouldn't be, right? You wouldn't, if you came to Christianity also, you wouldn't be over the Vazara according to these opinions, right? So there was spreading the oneness of God, right? So the whole world believes in one God, basically, it's not like there are many gods, like in the times of Terach, So that nitzotz of Kedusha is ultimately a good thing. And it's Hashem's way, Hashem's hashgacha pratis, to guide the world in that way. Now look, another scandalous thing Rav Kook says. Okay, this is in a Shmoneh Kevatzim. Here, I have it over here. Here, does someone need another sheet? Do you have enough sheets over there? You could use one. There you go. This is in the Shmoneh Kevatzim. These were the 8 notebooks found from Rav Kook that were printed, unedited, unredacted. Rav Kook's Svarim, Orot, what we're learning, and Orot HaKodesh. Orot was formulated by Rav Tzvi Yehuda Kook. And Orot HaKodesh, what are you saying?
I never knew that we killed Jesus. This is shocking news. I thought we didn't.
Oh yeah, he says we killed Yeshka. I mean, I think Chazal are okay with saying that. I mean, he was... The Rambam definitely is, right? Again, it's what he says. You know the joke about using Goldberg's nails? You know the one? I'll say it another time, right? Maybe when the camera's not rolling, I'll say it. Hit pause, right? This is Rav Kook, the Shmoneh Kevatzim, that he says, whatever, without going into what exactly Shmoneh Kevatzim are. This is what he says. This is in Kovetz Beis 126. Kishahaskala Elohis hi katana. When our understanding of God is small. As shiur shemitzayrim es Elohus gam ken katan. So the way we envision God is also small, right? If we have a small understanding, right, as Rebbe Nachman says, ugdulaso, it's really a pasuk, ugdulaso ein cheker. Rebbe Nachman said, God is grace. If we know God is big, then we think big. If we have small God, punitive God, then we're small too, right? V'kevan she'atochen Elohi muvor es hakatana ha'ein sofit shel adam lefanav. Right? Since the inner hatochen Elohi hu mevores hakatana ha'ein sofit shel adam lefanav. Since our perception of God being small or big in that way influences the way we view the world, Az ein lishar ad kama adam nasa zocho batlan ayde yiras shemayim she'en bodeya. So when we think of a small God, there's no amount to how much a person becomes a batlan, becomes lazy, and becomes just irrelevant and unmotivated, and has very little yiras shemayim that has no understanding to it. It's very punitive. It's very small. And how does a person come to a big understanding of God? We want big emunah. We want a big God, not a small God. In a way that our inner being, our essence filled with God, filled with divinity, in a way that's not weak, in a way that's very broad. We want expansiveness, not mochin dekatness. We want godless. So how do we get to that? Al yedei harchavas koach hamada shelo. In order, through expanding our understanding, he says over here of mada shelo, a science, but he really means, in this context, it really means chachma. Through expanding our education, through expanding our chachma, our wisdom. Al yedei shichur dimyono u'mu'uf hagyono. Through freeing our mind's imagination and letting our feelings uma'uf fly. Right, of means to fly, like a bird. Hegyono, our feelings. Al yidei das ha'olam v'hachayim, through understanding of the world and life. Al yidei osher hargasha b'chol havaya, and having feelings for all of existence and all of humanity. Shetzarich al ze be'emes la'asok b'kol ha'chachmas sheba'olam, and because of this, we need to be busy with all the chachmas of the world. U'b'chol Torah's hachayim, and all Torah of life. Ubechol darchei hartrabios hashonos. Now he's getting a little bit more scandalous, if we could use that word, right? Opening up our eyes. And all the ways of different cultures. V'hatochni ha'musar, and technical and ethics. V'hadas shel kol uma v'lashon, and learning about the world religions of every nation and its languages. There he goes, he says it again. Learning about world religions, the lashon, and their languages. Ubegdulas nefesh yada lezaches es kulam. And when we have a big soul, we're able to clarify and polish and understand them all, and to purify and take out the goodness in it. Is that amazing? Is that amazing? Now, I'm not going to read this inside due to lack of time, but this is literally what Rebbe Nachman says. Okay? Rebbe Nachman says this in several places in Likutey Moharan, right? Rebbe Nachman says in lesson Lamed Gimel, he talks about languages of the Goyim, B'chol lashon haGoyim, right? He talks about certain languages of Klipa, and Targum is an intermediate language, without going into such detail. But he says, V'zeh shemevi Yerushalmi. This is lesson 33 in Likutey Moharan, first chelek, os beis. V'zeh mevi Yerushalmi, right? Im yomar lecha adam heichan elokecha. If a person asks you, where's your God found? Tomar lo, what do you tell them? B'chrach gadol sheberomi, in the Roman Parthenon, in the village, right? Shezeh adam sheishala heichan elokecha. This person who's definitely found, who's asking, where's God? B'vadehu meshukim medor klipos. He's definitely in the world of klipos, right? And he's going on to say again that right, gam sham tucha limtzo kuso. Also in the medor klipos, in the lashonos hagoyim, he says you could find God. Ki hu mechayes hakol, because Hashem brings everything alive. Alive is everything. Everything means everything. No exceptions. Hashem, right? Like the Rambam says, Lo machshosai machshoseicha. My thoughts are not like, our thoughts are not like God's thoughts, right? Right? It says Hashem reveals everything. Umisham yachol lidabek es achlon bo yisparach v'shula v'shula. And from the ki lo rechoke hi mimcha, because Hashem is not far from anyone. So no matter what religion you are, no matter what faith you are, you can come close to God, because Hashem is found everywhere. And again, he goes on to say in the Chol Lashonos Hagayim, and all the world languages, and all the Shivim Umas and the 70 languages, you could find God there too. In all the world religions, you could find God as well, right? So it's amazing. So just to chazer bo on all this, what we've been saying up until now in this piece, right? This is incredible, right? Because of what we're saying up until this piece, right? That Rav Kook started the piece, again, we're not totally finished with the piece, but Rav Kook started the piece saying that so many of our youth are getting burnt out and they're leaving the fold of Yiddishkeit. And this one's busy with the details and explaining Yiddishkeit this way, and this one's busy with the details and saying this is wrong and that is bad and this is no good. So what do? He says, that doesn't work. That's old school. That doesn't work. What do we need? We need to adapt a broader educational philosophy, not to be scared, not one that's based on fear, not one that's based on mind control, but one that is based on revealing the nitzotzos kedusha that is found in all the chachmas ha'olam. One that is broad, one that is found on everything. So a guy goes to yeshiva all day long. It's like, how long can he sit there? How long can he just learn Gemara all day long? I mean, it's a good thing. If you're able to do it, that's wonderful. But how long can a person do that for? How long can a person feel, like we saw in an earlier piece from Rav Kook, a person begins to feel suffocated. I'm choking. Mechanek, right? So how long can a person do that? So in order, not only as a b'diavad, in order to keep people in the fold, broaden the educational system, broaden the chinuch, broaden our understanding of life, but lichatchila. Because if we really understand that Hashem is in everything, what are we scared of? Why are we running? Why are we recreating the ghetto? For what? Right? The walls are already gone. Everyone's got a smartphone. Everyone has a computer. There are screens. So what are we doing? Right? So he's saying, let's just open up. And he saw this like chelik of Rav Kook's nevuah, right? He saw this already pre-Medinas Yisrael, right? The old yeshuv, the new yeshuv, coming to Eretz Yisrael, and he's like, okay, we're entering in an era. And you know what? When you learn Chachmas and Eretz Yisrael, and now you use it to build up Eretz Yisrael, it's a mitzvah, because it goes into Binyan Haaretz. So whether you're learning to be an architect, a farmer, whether you're learning computer science, whether you're learning high tech, right? You're learning high tech. You're learning coding, right? You're learning to be a plumber. Whatever, you're learning how to run nursing homes in Eretz Yisrael, whatever you're learning, it goes into Binyan Haaretz. And now it's a mitzvah, right? So it's an amazing thing how he's telling all this. Incredible, right? Need I say more? Hey, yeah. Okay, everyone. Amazing. Shkech. Ashreinu matoim chalkeinu, manayim gar aleinu. Ashreinu matoim chalkeinu.